First of all, I'd like to say thank you to Nalanda Institute for inviting me to share this talk with all of you. And it's an honor to be invited. I can see all my old friends here, so many years haven't seen them. And also, first of all, I'm very honored to have Uncle Vijaya here as well. He's my teacher. When I started my diploma in Buddhist studies in 2014, he is my mentor as well as a teacher. So I learned a lot from him, and most of my publication he has read first before I submit it for publication. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu. Okay, I try to get this up. Maybe I can stand over there, here a little bit. Yeah. All right. Now today, I'd like to give you an overview. This is the overview of my talk. The first part is that I was going to talk about is give you a context about Kedah Tour, how Kedah Tour actually fits into the whole Southeast Asia context. And then I will talk about 4 inscriptions, Buddhist inscriptions, the Ye Dhamma inscriptions, the Ajana Chiyate Karma inscription, and the Bodhi Gaba Lankaraksha Dharani inscription, as well as the Sagaramati Paripricha inscriptions. Now before that, I'm also going to talk about some archaeological work being done in Bukit Choras, right? So it's the recent work that is being carried out. And lastly, I will touch on the monastic communication network during that time, especially the second half of the first millennium. All right, as you can see here, let me see this so that I can look at it. You can see here that Kedah, to this audience, you are very familiar with it. So it's situated facing the Strait of Malacca, and it is a common trade route between China and India. So you can see a lot of ships are sailing from India to Peninsula, stopping at Kedah, and also the Chinese traders will come down to the peninsula. So Kedah is in between these 2 major maritime trade routes, right? And between 2nd to 14th centuries, it is generally considered as ancient Kedah or Kedah Tour, right? And why is it 14th century onwards is no longer Kedah Tour? Because the Sultanate of Malacca come into the picture, right? So therefore, it is between 2nd to 14th centuries. And not only in the maritime trade route, the sea route, Kedah Tour is also the starting point of trans-peninsular routes. So you can see here, Kedah is sitting at these trans-peninsular routes that come from Sungai Muda and all the way following the river up to Patani. And there's another route coming from here, passing through Perlis and up to Songkhla, against bypassing all these ranges, like Tamarat Ranges and Sigola Ranges. So you can imagine that beside the busy sea route, also there are activities going on between these 2 seas, right? From the Strait of Malacca as well as the Gulf of Siam, through trans-peninsular routes. Now, this is an old picture. If you go to the museum, in Bukajang Valley Museum, you will see this picture. Before the 14th century, the shoreline is actually much further inland. All right? So you can see here, this is the current picture, but the yellow line is the old shorelines. And then you can see here there's a lot of islands. Now the islands is no longer an island, right? So there are a lot of islands here. And before that, it is islands. So that's why you can see here there's this word called Kataha Dwipa. Dwipa means island, right? Kataha means Kedah. So sometimes they classify Kedah as Kataha Dwipa because there's a lot of islands. And due to sedimentations, then you can see here now the island has disappeared. All right? And then you can see here this is a protected bay whereby the ship can come and unload and load their goods, right? And of course, we all know that Gunung Jerai is an important landmark for the sailors. So if they see Gunung Jerai, they will know that land is near and they can rest, right? Now, there are quite a number of research carried out, archaeological research being carried out in the Bujang Valley. And of course, we know the earliest one among them was James Lowe in the mid-19th centuries. But one of the most significant researchers is by Quaritch Wills, right? Quaritch Wills, and he has done significant work between 1936 to 1937. And he published his work in the Journal of the Malaysian branch of the Royal Ascetic Society in 1940. So until today, this work is still a very important piece of work if you want to study Bujang Valley. So it's a primary data work, right? Next slide. Now, to give you an account for Yi Jing's, about Kedah Tua in Yi Jing's record, I just selected a few passages. Right, so let me read to you how Yi Jing's talk about Kedah Tua, because we all know that Kedah Tua as an important node for Southeast Asia maritime route is quite well established, right? The location itself, right? But then it can be, the same can be said for Buddhist textual and ritual practice as well. Now let me read to you the translations by Wakely. According to Yi Jing record, in less than 20 days, we reached Sili Force, means Sri Vijaya, basically coming from Guangdong area, where I spent 6 months learning the Sabda Vidya, basically Sanskrit grammar. The king befriended me and sent me to the country of Melayu, basically Jambi today, all right, where I stayed there for 2 months. Oops, sorry. Where I stayed there for 2 months. Then I changed direction to go to Jiecha, Kedah, right? In the 12th month, I embarked in the king's ship and set sail for India. Sailing northward to Jiecha for more than 10 days, we came to the kingdom of naked people, or Nicobar Island. From here, sailing in a northwesterly direction for half a month, we came to the Tamraliti, okay? Now, just to show you the graphic is easier to understand. So you can see here, normally the Buddhist monks will come from China, will come from this Guangfu area, come down here in Champa, Chenla. They can either sail directly to Sri Vijaya, which is Palembang, and go to what they call Java, or like Yi Jing case, it goes to Melayu and then come to Kedah, and then from Kedah they wait for the right wind, the monsoon wind. Then from there, it will sail to Nicobar Island and then go up to north to northern India, or go down to Nagapetam or Sri Lanka, right? So you can see here all these routes, the one that is being drawn, are being traveled by at least one monk, right? Because there are many Chinese monks that go to India. Sorry, I'm not sure whether the other side you can hear me. And you can see, but sometimes they will come down here from Chenla, they will come down to the peninsula called Langka Suka or Langya Siu, right? And then from there, you will come over to Kedah. So Kedah has always been the point of departure to India, right? Okay, let's go to the next one. Now, I want to share with you, during Yi Jing's time, what kind of Buddhist schools or Buddhist traditions are present in Southeast Asia, right? So let's see what his record says. Many kings and in the islands of Southern Ocean, basically non-Tibet Southeast Asia, admire and believe Buddhism, and their hearts are set on accumulating good action. Right? In the fortified city of Boga, basically Palembang, Buddhist priests number more than 1,000 whose minds are bent on learning and good practices. Right? They investigate and study all subjects that exist just as in the Middle Kingdom, right? Madhya Desa, right? The rules and ceremonies are not all different. If a Chinese priest wished to go to the West in order to lecture, to hear the lecture and read the original language, he had better stay 1 or 2 years and practice the proper rules and then proceed to Central India. So earlier, the slides, you have heard that even Yi Jing himself will stay back in Palembang to learn Sanskrit, Sabda Vidya. So this is also the advice for other monks as well. He said that if you want to go to India, because they use Sanskrit there a lot, so you better learn here first before you go to India, right? Stay in Palembang in Southeast Asia first. Now, I'm just trying to show you that during that time, during Yi Qing's time, what are the language is being used? Huh? Now, this is to talk about the schools, right? What are the schools? In the island of Southern Sea, consisting of more than 10 countries, the Mula Sarvastivadin Nikayas has been almost universally adopted, right? Though occasionally some has devoted themselves to the Sammati Nikayas. And recently, a few followers of other two schools has also been found. The other two schools basically means Mahasanghika and Theravada, right? Counting from here, Buddhism is embraced in all these countries, and mostly the system of, here used the word Hinayana, right? The smaller vehicle is adopted, except in Melayu, right? Jampi, where a few who belongs to the Mahayana tradition are there, right? Now I know that some of you may not be familiar what is Mula Sarvastivada and Samatiyas, right? So basically, if you read the history of how Buddhist schools evolved, for example, in the Mahavamsa, right? So after the first Buddhist council, which is 100 days after the Buddha Parinibbana, then 100 years later, you have the second council, Buddhist council in Versailles, right? After the second Buddhist council, the Buddhist Sangha is being split into two, right? One is the Staviravada, the elders, and then one group called the Mahasanghika. Then the Staviravada later on also split into two groups. One group being the Vatsiputra, or commonly known as the Pugalawadin. And then the Staviravada groups later also split into two groups. One is, they call it the Sarvastivadin group. They believe that all Dharma exists in three times, right? Sawa Asti. And then we have the Tambapaniyas group, which is the Sri Lanka's group. Right? The Tambapaniyas groups, of course, we have the Mahaviharawasin, which is the current Buddhist Theravada tradition comes from, and then the Abhayagiri and Jetavanasin. So, but my point here is this. Different Buddhist schools use different Buddhist languages, different languages to transmit Buddhist texts. Right? The Mula Sarvastivadin schools use Sanskrit to transmit Buddhist texts. Right? Of course, Theravada use Pali to transmit Buddhist texts. Right? And then the Samatiyas group use a type of Sanskritized Prakrit to transmit Buddhist texts. It's called Abhrabhavamsha. Right? But here we don't have to bother too much in today's lecture. Today's lecture, I would just have to share with you that Sanskrit is being used quite widely in Southeast Asia during Yi Qing's time. All right? Okay, so in another text called the Jataka Mala Tika, it's a sub-commentary of the Garland of Buddhist stories, all right? Above stories. So if this Jataka Mala mentioned about two pots in Suvarna Bhumi, right? Two pots in Suvarna Bhumi. There's two pots in Suvarna Bhumi. And then the Tika, the commentary text says that the two pots are actually Lanka Shobha, which is Lanka Sukha, and Kataha Dvipa, right? So in Kedah. So that's why you can see here sometimes people use the word Dvipa. Dvipa means island. During that time, there's a lot of islands before the sedimentation happens, right? Now, the Sanskrit scholarship in Southeast Asia is kind of like maintained up to the 11th centuries, right? From the 7th, 8th centuries up to the 11th centuries. By evidence, by the compositions of a very highly philosophical text called the Duboda Loka, right? It is composed by an author called Dhammakirti Sri, or another name of it is Dhammakirti Suvarna Dvipa. There's a lot of Dhammakirti in the Buddhist world, but this Dhammakirti is the one coming from Kedah, right? So this is the manuscripts that's now in Tibetan Library Museum, and it is in Sanskrit, right? Composed in Kedah, right? So you can see here the colophons of this Dubada Loka says that this illumination has been composed by Dhammakirti Sri at the request of King Sri Chudamani Varman. Now in the Chola inscriptions, you see that Chudamani Varman is considered as the Adipati of Kataha or Kadaram in Tamil, right, of Sri Vijaya. So of course, people can interpret Adipati is whether Lord or Overlord, right? So that's why you have splitting in among the academics, whether this Chudamani Varman is based in Kedah or based in Sumatra, right? So, and then this Dhammakirti Sri or Dhammakirti Suvarna Dwipa is the teacher of quite a lot of prominent monks. For example, Atisha, Jnana Sri Mitras, they came all over to learn from him, all right? Now, my point here is to say that Kedah, during the second half of the first millennium, Sanskrit is widely used. And you can see this kind of scholarships also appear, right? Okay, yes, okay, thank you. Okay, then with that background, Sanskrit-based, what kind of schools are there? But remember, Yi Jing's account is only a snapshot of activities at a particular time only, right? But they give us some good idea of what is going on in Southeast Asia. Okay, the 4 inscriptions that I'm going to talk about is the Ye Dharma inscriptions, which is the most common inscriptions in the Buddhist world. So you can go to anywhere, you will find these Ye Dharma inscriptions, and I will talk about it later on, about its significance. The second one is the Ajana Chiyate Karma inscriptions, found in Sungai Mas, the Buddha Gupta stone slabs, and the Bukit Mariam stone slabs. Then the third one is a Dharani, a type of mantra, found in the tablets in the cave in Perlis. And the fourth one is, which is currently quite popular in the sense that it's called the Sagaramati Paripricha inscriptions. So far we have found 5 inscriptions already, all right? The most recent one is in Bukit Choras. And you can see here in these slides where they are found, all right? So you can see here in the Bujang Valley, the red color one is the Sagaramati Paripricha inscriptions. So 2 of them are found in Bukit Choras, one in Sungai Batu, one in Site 2 by Quaritch Wills, and one in Kampung Sungai Mas, right? And then the Ajana Chiyate Karma verses in Bukit Mariam, Kampung Sungai Mas, as well as in the Buddha Gupta inscriptions, and the Ye Dharma inscription. So far, 2 Ye Dharma inscriptions is found in Bukit Choras, and then one together with Bukit Mariam, right? It's stone slab. Now, before I go into each of these inscriptions, let me share with you the excavations update in Bukit Choras. So how many of you has been to Bukit Choras? I don't know, where is it? Oh, only a few? All right, it's quite a nice place. So you can see here Bukit Choras stand kind of independently in a flat paddy field. All right? So this is Bukit Choras. You can see it, beside it is the Sala River. So this is the Sala River. All right? The chronology of Bukit Choras excavation, first reported by James Low, right? So he was translating this Hikayat Merung Mahawangsa. So this Hikayat Merung Mahawangsa mentioned a place called Sala, right? So James Low is excited to go and look for this place called Sala, and then he saw this Bukit Choras. Then he reported that upstairs, on top of the bukit, there remains what appear to have been temples. Full stop. No more additional information. All right? So he has been left there until 1936-37. Quaritch Wills came into the picture. Based on James Low report, he excavated it further. All right? So what he found is, he found a stupa, and at the southern side of the stupa, he found a few things: ceramics, fragments of ceramics, iron object, and an inscription. This is a very important inscriptions, the Ye Dharma inscriptions. So we call it Bukit Choras Inscription 1. Right? And then Quarrish Wills felt his idea is that, sites on top of the hill is not generally very productive. All right? So he decided not to excavate further. So he left. Right? So that site was left relatively untouched for almost 80 years. In between, we have some cleaning work being done, and they found 2 ponds and things like that. But until 2023, from the team from USM started to excavate the site again. All right? So you can see here, this is Bukit Choras today. So you can see here, there's a star. Star is where the site is, right? Where the archaeological site is. So you have 2 mounds, one on the northeast and then the southwest. And you can see here, a lot of quarry work is being done, right? So if we did not report it earlier, to put it under conservation, the whole site will disappear, right? So you can see here the Sala River runs besides the hill. Now, river is important because during the olden days, as I show you, the shoreline is actually closer inland. So it could be near to the shoreline where people can get to that site by boat, right? And then you have the Chinese cemetery and then the Malay kampung. And then in 2003, this is the team from USM, we have to open out, make a path to get to the site. And this is the condition of the site before the USM team excavated, right? So you can see this in the center, there's a pit, right? So this is the pit, and you can see here there's a hole here. We do not know whose work is this. Oh, okay, you cannot see the cursor. Okay, yeah, I will stand up. So you can see here, this is a pit here. So Quarrish Will said maybe James Lowe or maybe treasure hunter may have dug something up from there. And then there's also some activities work here. We do not know who actually dug a hole there. Oh, sorry. Then this is the condition of the stupa after the excavation, right? Excavated in phase 1, August to September 2023. So we exposed the southern side of the stupa, the western side of the stupa, right? So you can see here we have a recess in the cardinal point. Then there's a Buddha statue with a projected stairways. Here you can see there's also a Buddha statue with a projected stairways. So this is the pit, the hole that we saw earlier slides. Earlier slides. So this is what being discovered, right? So you can hit the southern side, there's a Buddha statue, the head is not recovered. So you can see here, but the Buddha statues are made of stucco, right? A stucco. And then on the left-hand side of this southern side, you can see here there's tablets, right? So tablets. Okay, but then we felt that the top part has been broken off. So basically, you can see here there could be a stupa with the parasol here. And then on the western side, we also have another Buddha statue made of stucco sitting in meditative posture, right? So if you look at the iconography of this Buddha statue, it's very plain, simple. It's just meditative posture. And then on the southern part here, near the knee, we found an inscription, right? So this is the Sagaramati Pariprecha inscriptions. So this inscriptions is, this is the 4th inscription, the 4th Sagaramati Pariprecha inscription. And then now you can see here, this is the current, if you drive the North-South Highway to the north, you exit from Pentang, then you come off from the toll, at the traffic light there, you take the right turn, you just drive, then you will see this sign, Bukit Choras, right? So then this is, now they have put in the steps. You can climb and then we pass through this rubber estate. So on top of that, this is the aerial view of the the structure. This is the northern side. This is the southern side, and then the eastern side has not yet been excavated yet. So until today, the eastern side is yet to be excavated. So this is phase 2. So it's now phase 1, right? Phase 1, we excavated southern side and the western side. So this is the northern side, right? So phase 2, that time in January 2024, we managed to cover half of it only, right? So we expect that you can see here, this is the projected stairways here, and we expect another Buddha statue here as well. But one thing I want you to notice is that you can see here what covers these recesses. There's huge, heavy laterite bricks that cover that place. That's why it remains uncovered for so many years, right? Because in order to dig it, you have to really remove one by one, and it's really a lot of work. So we continue the phase 3 in May. Half a year later, in May, we started to excavate. So this is the recess. Here we started to excavate that area. And then in the northern part, we found another inscription, you see. So it is protruding this from here, and again we pull out that inscription. This is the second Sagaramati Pariprecha inscriptions discovered in Bukit Choras, right? On the northern side. So we call it, because the first one is Ye Dharma, the second one is the southern side, BC 2, and then this is the BC 3, all right? Bukit Choras, third inscriptions. All right, and then you can see here, we dig further, we found the Buddha statues. All right, so you can see here the head has fallen down, so we have to put it back. So these are the team from USM, Dr. Velad and master students. And at the end of the day, this is how it looks like. The Buddha statues in the northern recess, made of stucco, sitting on a lotus petal. All right. Half lotus position, dhyana positions, right? Made of stuccos. So this is the image that we first found the Buddha. So this is the image. So if any of you feel that you have something, interpretations of these features or iconography of this Buddha statue, please share this with me, because now we are still studying it, how this, where is the inspiration the builders got from, you know, to build this Buddha statue. And then after 1,000 years, I have an opportunity to do a little puja, because we cannot leave the statue there because of the rain, and it's exposed, and then it's stucco. If you leave the statue there, then it will disintegrate. So we have to remove the statue and put it into the lab. So now USM is trying to, what they call, reconstruct the statue, right? So this is the aerial view after the third phase, northern, where the statue is still in place. This is the southern side, and this is the western side, okay? So far, as of May 2024, you can see here, the northern side, we have this Buddha statue, almost complete. We have a Sagaramati Pariprecha inscription. And then we have this metal cone, right? Which we do not know what is the function of it yet, still under investigation. And then the southern side, we have a tablet, right? Inscription, a Buddha statue, stucco. And then the western side, we have also the Buddha statue in stucco. So far, this is the update of Bukit Choras as far as this stupa is concerned. Then a year later, then we move on to the southern side, a southern structure of the stupa, right? The southern part of the stupa. So you can see here, this is the stupa, right? This is the southern side. So now we go into another structure, the southern part. This is how we see the southern part of the structure. So we started to excavate it almost a year already, in May and April and May last year, right? So while excavating it, we found another inscription, right? So this inscription is a Ye Dharma inscription, right? So we call it BC4, right? Ye Dharma inscriptions. So a very important inscription. So far we have 2 inscriptions in this structure, right? Because you remember Quaritch Will said at the southern part of the stupa, we found 1 inscription, which is BC1, right? But we do not know which exact spot it is. So this is the second inscription found in the same structure, the second Ye Dharma inscription found in the same structure. Okay? All right, so the next excavation is Q3 or Q4. We do not know yet, maybe August or September. Okay, with that, let me come back to the inscriptions. Let's start out with the Ye Dharma inscription. Now, Ye Dharma inscriptions are found in 4 places, right? We have an eye copy of Bukit Meriam inscription. Bukit Meriam stone slab, unfortunately, has been lost. We can no longer find it, right? If any of you in private collection, please, hey, I have something looks like this, please let me know. All right? So this is an eye copy from James Lowe. So James Lowe saw it, and he eye copy and make a copy of it, so it has been published, right? The next one is the Bukit Choras one. So this is the Bukit Choras one inscription, the one that Quaritch Wills discovered. The third one is in the cave. In Perlis there is a cave called Gua Bahala or Gua Kurung Batang, right, near the Thai borders. Inside the cave, you can see here, this is a tablet, right? And then behind the tablet, they stamp with the Ye Dharma inscription, all right? So what is the Ye Dharma inscription? So Ye Dhamma hetu prabhava hetum tesham tatagato aha. Yesham cha nirodha evam vadi mahashramana. Right? So those things arises from a cause. Their cause the Tathagata declares, right? As well as their cessation. Thus proclaim the great ascetic. The great ascetic means the Buddha. Right? Now, what is Tathagata? What is a Tathagata? It's an epithet of the Buddha, right? So the Buddha called himself Tathagata, right? Now, why is this verse important, right? So this verse is found in text. It's found in the Pali Vinaya, right? In Mahavaga, right? It's also found in the Pali Apadana, in the Shariputta Thera Apadana. It is also found in the Lokottaravadin Mahasangika Sanskrit text called the Mahavastu, and the Savastivadin school, the Chatu Prarisat Sutra. Right? So it is found in Buddhist texts, in various Buddhist texts. Now, why is this verse important? Do you remember Asaji? Who is Asaji? One of the 5 chief disciples of the Buddha, right? So one day, Sariputta, before he became the Buddha's disciple, right? So he was walking in the town, and then he saw Asaji. He said, wow, Asaji looks so serene and so pure. He must have attained deathlessness, amata. He must be an arahant. So he approached Asaji after Asaji has done his pintabata, and he asked, oh, sir, Venerable, you look so serene. You know, you must be an arahant in a sense. So who is your teacher? Right? Then Asaji said, the Buddha is my teacher. Right? Then Sariputta was very excited. He said, oh, tell me what the Buddha taught you. So Asaji's first response was, oh, the Buddha's teaching is very profound. Why don't you listen to him directly? But then Sariputta insisted, oh, please tell me what the Buddha taught. And Asaji uttered this verse, right? The Ye Dhamma Hetu Prabhava. So after hearing this verse, Sariputta gained Sotapanna, right? Dhamma Chakku Udapadi, right? So the Dhamma eye arose. So he was very happy. So what happened next? He ran and looked to Mongalana, his best friend, right? So his best friend saw Sariputta coming from far. Wow, your faculties is so bright, right, and pure. Have you found the deathlessness, amata, right? Then Sariputta repeated this same verse to Mongalana, and again Moggallana attained Sotapanna. Can you imagine the perceived power of this verse? Right? That's why it's one of the most common verses used in the Buddhist Sanskrit. Now, in the Tibetan tradition, this stanza is recorded under the Sutra, Tantra, and collected Dharanis. All right? So, in one of the texts called the Arya Paticca Samuppada Hridaya Sutra, the heart of Paticca Samuppada Sutra in Tibetan traditions, give the reason why this verse is important. Right? Here it says, if you pronounce this heart formula once, you purify all your negative deeds and pacify and repel all that is unfavorable. If you pronounce it while holding on an object, right, the object becomes the body of the Buddha, the Dhammakaya. Right? That's why you can see a lot of Ye Dhamma inscription are being inscribed on Buddha statues, images, right? Because it represents Dhammakaya, right? And if you pronounce it while holding offering something, the offering will fill the whole universe. Now what we are trying to do here is to figure out why people are so keen in this verse, right? For ritual purposes. So in another sutra, recorded in Chinese as well as in Tibetan, not in Sanskrit, unfortunately, is talking about the sutra of the merit of building a stupa spoken by the Buddha. So at the last part of the sections of the sutra, let me read to you. At that time, the world honored one uttered this verse. So he uttered the Ye Dhamma verse. And then it continues. Noble son, this verse signifies the Buddha Dhammakaya. Again, the Buddha Dhammakaya. You should write this verse and place it inside a stupa. Why? Because all cause and Dhamma nature of all things that are produced are empty. This is the reason why I call it the Dhammakaya. If a living being understood the import of such causes, you should know that this person would then see the Buddha. So the significance of this, my point here is that the use of these Ye Dhamma inscriptions is to represent the Buddha himself. Instead of the physical body relic, it represents a Dhamma relic itself. Right? And then while you put the inscription with Ye Dhamma inside a stupa, it represents the relics of the Dharma. Right? They may not get the physical relics of the Buddha, but you use it as a representation of the relics. Okay, so now you see these two inscriptions in Bukit Choras. They are of different size, written in same script, but stylistically they are different. So now you don't view it as, okay, a piece of a rod with inscription. It represents the Dhammakaya. So you can imagine that during that time, when people are performing this ritual, entering this Dhammakaya into the structure for consecrations or representing the Dhammakaya. So you can see here, very clearly, it comes from two groups of people. Now, I just want to take this opportunity to make a revisions of the interpretations of these inscriptions. So previously, when they found this Bukit Choras 1 inscription, it has been read as Ye Dharma Hetu Prabhava Hetum Tesam. And then you can see here the bracket. Right? The bracket, Parishville says, the one who read it was J. Allen. He said that this one is missing. But actually we think that this is not missing. Okay? The top one, the Ye Dhamma Hetu Prabhava, is missing. Here, instead of Ye Dhamma, actually it's Ye Sham Hetum Tathagata. Right? This is just a minor point. Huh? But anyway, but Ye Sham tradition is not uncommon. Right? So the Ye Sham tradition is generally found in the central Thailand. Right? Here, southern Thailand, also we have one. Now this is a clay tablet in Perlis. So you can see here, this tablet is one Buddha surrounded by 8 Bodhisattvas, and behind there, they are also stamped with the Ye Dhamma inscriptions. But actually, there's a lot to say about this inscription, but today we don't go into that. Now, the next inscription is the Ajana Chiyate Karma inscription. All right? So it's found in 3 places. Number 1 is in Bukit Meriam. So you can see here earlier, Bukit Meriam inscription, the first part of it is Yedama inscription. The second part of it is the Ajana Chiyate inscription. Right? It's found in Sungai Mas, and then the Buddha Gupta, the famous Buddha Gupta inscriptions. Right? So what is Ajana Chiyate inscription? Ajana, because of ignorance, karma is accumulated. Right? Karma is the cause of rebirth. Right? And through knowledge or wisdom, karma is not accumulated. Karma abhavam. In the absence of karma, one does not reborn. Right? So, now interestingly, this verse is not traced to any Buddhist text. Right? Even though it looks very simple, it must be somewhere. But scholars trying to look for it, it was not traced in any Buddhist text. It is kind of like they call it regional innovation. Now, I will come to that shortly later on. And then, of course, we have the Dhammagupta inscription. And beside the Ajana Chiyate Karma verses, it also says about a sea captain who named Buddha Gupta and wish him a safe journey. All right? A sea captain of Rakta Mertrika. Right? Now, what is Rakta Mertrika? Tanah Merah. Right? So, Rakta Mertrika means Tanah Merah. It can be anywhere. Right? To me, Kedah also got Tanah Merah, Kelantan also got Tanah Merah. But some scholars propose that this Tanah Merah perhaps in the Bengal state, right? But we can look into that in future a little bit more. Now the third inscription is a mantra, a dharani, right? And what is a dharani? Dharani is something that if you chant it or copy it, you will invoke a power to generate merits, to put it in a very simple word. And sometimes the dharani does not have any meaning, some of the meaning. It's just the sound of it, right? So we have these tablets, right, being found in huge number of quantities in a cave in Perlis. Okay, wait, don't worry. All right. Oh. Sorry. Up. Okay, so this is the cave, Gua Berhala. So it's next to the border of Thailand, right? So you can see in front there's a small stream here. Inside there, they found multiple copies of these tablets. And then these tablets has been quite well studied in a sense, being reported many times, right? Starting from the beginning of the mid of 19th century, up to recently we take a look at it again. Okay. Now you can see here, these are all the fragments picked up in Gua Berhala in Perlis. Remember, Perlis previously is also part of ancient Kedah. Huh? So you can see here all these fragments, and you can see already the thickness are all different. So basically, it means to say that the tablets is made by hand, and then they stamp the dharani onto it. Okay. Now these are all kept in Singapore, right? Asian Civilization Museum. Oh, this one is kept in Kota Kayang Museum in Perlis. So you still have a few fragments there, right? Some fragments in USM also. Okay, so you can see here, this is the text from Perlis sealings, and we have actually transcribed the text into the Roman characters. So you can see here the script that used to write this text is called the Siddham Matrika scripts. A Siddham Matrika scripts develops in the mid of the first millennium, specifically used for mantra or dharanis, all right, from India. A very popular dharani, this one. And let's see what the dharani say. All right? Now let me read to you the dharani, all right, this translation. Homage to the Blessed One, the Tathagata, whose broad face glows with a golden radiance. and surmounted by a radiant ray. So you can see the Buddha image with the radiant coming out, right? Homage to the sage of the Sakyan. Awaken, 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 means Bodhi, 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 right? Oh, you who are the domain of all Tathagatas, whole, right? Dara, Dara, take and strike. Oh, holder of the thought of the great awakening, Chulu, Chulu. So you can see all this Chulu, Chulu, Minimi has no meaning one. These are all the features of Dharanis, right? You are impelled by 100 rays, who is spoken by all Tathagatas. O virtue, O you who possess virtue, one who manifests the virtue of a Buddha, Mili, O you who establish in the vault of the sky, sustained by all Tathagatas, you who are O arcing canopy of the sky, come, appease. O you who appease all evil, O you who cleanse all evil, Hulu Hulu, O you who set out on the path of awakening, the one who is established by all Tathagatas, O pure one, Swaha. So you can see Om and Swaha are features of mantra, Dharanis. All right? Homage to you, the one who gazed upon by all Tathagatas. So these are the Dharanis that has been stamped, and you can imagine people practicing stamping this Dharani with this type of meaning during the 10th centuries in Perlis itself, right, in our country. And some say that it is a homage to personifications of Prajna Paramitas. But we think that it does not necessarily need to talk about the personification. It can be to the perfections of wisdom itself, which is also in a feminine case, right? Okay. You have a bit of time? All right. So here, let me share with you the benefit of writing this Dharani, right, according to a text, right? Because the Perlis one is a very short. If you look at the manuscript, right, the manuscript in Nepal, right, they also talk about this Dharani, but a slightly longer version, right? It tells you why people use this Dharani, okay? So that's why he said that if you use this Dharani and inter this Dharani into a stupa, you will gain great merits. Right? So you can see that's why you go to visit in Indonesia or sometimes in Thailand, they create this miniature stupa. Right? So because miniature stupa also represent a big stupa. Right? So the Buddha in one text says that even the stupa is as small as a fruit, also consider a stupa. So you can see here how people innovate. They put the text inside a stupa in this small way. Right? They don't have to build a big stupa. Right? And here it says that, for whose sake the Buddha declared this Dharani. Oh, Ananda, this was taught by me in brief for the sake of living beings whose merit is weak, who are without faith, who hold wrong views, who are consumed by doubts, who interpret signs and omen, who have committed act of immediate retribution, right? The five great sins, who have short lifespan and who are destined to go to hell or the realm of hungry ghosts, animals, and the world of Yama, and this Dharani has been spoken. So these Dharani are basically used as an avenue to generate merits. So in another text, it also says that the Buddha declared this Dharani to a person who has no children. So he come and ask the Buddha, so Lord Buddha, what should I do? So the Buddha taught him this Dharani. So this was being preserved in the Tibetan text. So basically you can view it as during that time, during the first millennium, the second half of the first millennium, people wanted to do something to generate merits. So this is the ritual that they will participate in. Either they stamp it themselves, or they contribute some money and they get it stamped for them. All right? So they may use this merit to wish for safety in the sea or for protections, anything. Right? So this Dharani is also translated into Chinese, Tripitaka. All right? Just to show you that in Korea it's also quite popular. Now, if you want to have more information about this Dharani, you can go through these articles, which we published 2 years ago in 2024. Okay, come to the important Dharani. important inscriptions, the Sagaramati Pariprecha inscription. So far, 5 has been found, right? Now, these 5 inscriptions share a few common features, right? First of all, because we see that since 5 of these dharani has been found, what can they tell us about the nature of Buddhist practice during the time, right? During the second half of the first millennium, right? Now, the first thing we investigate is the material that hold these dharanis, okay? You can see here, it's quite kind of like a pattern. They inscribe it on a rod, right? And this rod taper to one side, means from the left is wider, and then towards the right it's getting smaller, right? Perhaps due to the material that is available in Kedah, right? So they present it in a systematic manner, right? And then secondly is that all these inscriptions are found inside a stupa, just like the Bukit Choras, or presumed stupa structure, right? For example, Sungai Batu 1 is found in SB1B stupa structure. I mean, one look we know it's a stupa structure, right? And then Sungai Mas, we do not know what structure. They say it could be a small structure, especially Site 2. Quarishville felt that it is a small structure, presumably a stupa structure, but because the landowner has used some of the bricks to build his house, so we cannot really know what structure it is already. All right. So BC 4 and 5 are stupa structures. All right. So we asked, what could it tell about us? Now let's look at the verses first. All right. There are 3 verses in this in this inscription. Right. So it is in Sanskrit, and it comes from a text called the Sagaramati Pariprecha, right? It's a Mahayana Sutra text, right? And it was discovered by Ling Li Guang, that it comes from this text. Initially, we do not know where it comes from, right? So these young, bright scholars, Ling Li Guang, actually said that, hey, it is from this text. And this text is not, it does not survive in Sanskrit, right? Only in Tibetan and Chinese. Of course, certain texts quoted this sutra, then we have the Sanskrit version, okay? And then in Chinese, again, you can see here, these are the verses. So in Tibetan, Genjo, it is in chapter 6, verses 14, 15, and 18. So here again, maybe it's also 14, 15, and 18 in a set of 19 verses, okay? Okay, now what is the meaning of this inscription? This is a very deep discussion. I just try to make it simple. All right. So here it says, those things, all right, those things that arisen in dependence, praticca samuppanna, right, dependent origination, have not arisen from any own nature, na te kechit swabhavaha. Now this swabhavaha is important. Own nature means a thing that does not change, does not depend on anything for its existence. Means they are always there, permanent, from primordial time till forever. But such thing does not exist, right? No swabhava. So, but those that do not exist from their own nature, of their own accord, for them there's no arising. All right? So basically it says that there is no such thing as a permanent entity which exists from the primordial time until forever. Right? So everything comes from dependent arising. All right? So there is no swabhava. But since if there is no swabhava, there is no arising of that swabhava. That's the meaning. Right? Since there is, means it does not come out on its own. All right? It's not created by somebody else, because there's no such thing. Right? So when there's no such thing, there's no arising of such thing. Okay? That's the meaning. So the second verse, okay, basically the first verse is talking about the concept of emptiness. Right? The concept of emptiness. Now you see, just now we talk about the Sarvastivadin, right? The Sarvastivadin believe that there is this thing called a Swabhava that exists in 3 times: the past, the present, and the future, in their effort to explain karma, right? So Nagarjuna said there's no such thing as things that is not changeable. There's no such thing as Swabhava, right? So there's a refutation to that particular concept, right? So the first, for today's purpose, the first is talking about the emptiness of Dharma, right? The second verse, one who knows this end, right, Kotim, of the world is equal to no end. His wisdom has reached the end, and the functions with regards to all Dharma. Basically, Professor Johnston from Oxford felt that this verse is particularly talking about the equivalence between samsara and nirvana. So in the Mahayana Buddhism, there's no such thing as a duality of samsara and nirvana in ontological sense, right? In the ultimate sense, because everything is empty. Right? Since everything is empty, there should not be any dichotomy. There's no dualism. Right? So it's kind of like a teaching of Nimbara-Curtis. Right? So if a person who understands this, then his knowledge has reached the end, reached its peak in terms of how things function in the world. Because he said that people think that what is Maya means illusion as something which is veiled, unchanging. All right? Okay. So the first one is talking about emptiness. The second one is talking about non-dualisms of entity. So you can see this other the Madhyamaka teaching, right? The Madhyamaka teaching coming into the picture, Nagarjuna. And then the third verse is talking about the 10 powers of the Buddha and the 4 kinds of confidence and the 18 kinds of attributes that are unique to the Buddhas, right? So they asked, why do you teach this thing? They said, okay, we do not know why they selected these 3 verses, right? So these 3 verses are unique to Kedah. Basically, you don't find in any inscription elsewhere in the Southeast Asia or in Asia that quoted these 3 verses in Sanskrit. Only in Kedah, right? So someone in Kedah must have picked up these 3 verses and said that these are the 3 verses that we are going to use for our ritual practice or maybe for our learning, okay? So now just to share with you where these are being discovered. So you can see here, this is the SB1B, right, a stupa. And then you can see here, this is being discovered near this structure. This is not the only inscription here, anyway. Then the site 2, so you can see here, these are the old structure site. Square base of a stupa, this is a word of Quaritch Wheels, right? So this is site 2. And these are the 2 that I've discussed with you in Bukit Choras. Sungai Mas, we don't have any record yet, but it was discovered in Sungai Mas. We do not know exactly what place they discovered. Okay, now this is a very important slide. So the date of these inscriptions. So you can see here, what we do is that we look into the inscription and we study the paleography, the style of writing of this inscription. Then from there, we kind of like estimate the date based on paleographic analysis, the date of the inscription. Okay? So you can see here, Sungai Batu, you can see here the na, the retroflex na. So it's kind of like a straight line and then a 2-wing, right? So this 2-wing, this type of na is a very old na, right? So if you see this na inscription, you know that this is an old inscription. Because the later inscription, you have 4 legs already. It's become 4 legs. So these are later inscriptions, right? So basically, Sungai Batu is the oldest, 6th century. Then come with Sungai Mas, site 2, and then Bukit Choras 3 and Bukit Choras 4. We date it to the 8th or 9th centuries, right? From 6th to 7th, and even some reports saying that 5th century. But I feel a bit 5th century a bit too stretched, right? So we date it between 6th to 9th centuries. Now the question here is this, interesting. A same ritual practice is being practiced in Kedah, right, from 6th to 9th centuries. using the same verses, the same form of presentation. Right? So we think that there could be a Buddhist lineage or tradition that survived in Bujang Valley for a few hundred years. Right? And on top of that, if you look at the scripts, they are different, right? So here you see the K with a long tail. Here the K, the tail disappeared. Right? Basically, it means the people who write these scripts know Sanskrit. They know what is the contemporary writing style. It is not an I copy, you know. It's like I see this, I just copy exactly the same. No. Means the people who write this, they know, oh, today we don't write the K like this anymore. This is an old archaic way. We write the K this way. Right? So basically, it also tells us that there is a community that has a knowledge of Buddhism, not just ritually, but scholarship in Buddhism. They're able to write the contemporary writing style, during that time. 9th century style. 6th century, 6th century styles. Right? So therefore, we felt that there could be a Buddhist ritual, a Buddhist traditions that survive for 300 to 400 years in Bujang Valley itself. It could be one pocket of the people. It may not represent the whole Buddhist entity altogether. Right? So this is the significance of this. Oh, okay, sorry. So if you want to know more information, this paper we just published it like a few months ago in the journal of the Malaysian branch of the Royal Society. You can get a copy from the internet. Okay, now we come to the last part, which is the Buddhist communication network. So we want to know, okay, this is what's happening in Bujang Valley, right? So what is it connected? What's going on elsewhere? Right? What is it happening? Okay. So let's look into the Ajana Ciyate Karma verses first. A very interesting verse. So we found that in Bujang Valley, we found it in Bukit Mariam, Sungai Mas, and Buddha Gupta inscription, right? And it is also found in Borneo, right? In Bandar Sri Bhagawan, a small stone, Limbang, and Batu Pahat. And then also the gold foil, right? Now let me show you one more thing. So you can see here in Batu Pahat, not the Johor Batu Pahat. This one is in Kalimantan, West Kalimantan, right? So there's this huge boulder, right? Huge boulder. All right? So you can see here this boulder, inside this boulder, there is a stupa relief, right? Stupa relief. And inside the stupa relief, there is inscription. Okay? So you have stupa 1, 2, 3, inscription, stupa 4, some dedicatory writing, 5, 6, 7, 8, also inscription. And what kind of inscriptions are there? So you can see stupa 1, Ajana Ciyate Karma verse, stupa 2, Ye Dharma, stupa 3, Ajana Ciyate, stupa 4 is dedicatory, stupa 5, Ye Dharma, stupa 6, Ajana Ciyate, stupa 7, Ye Dharma. So Ye Dharma, Ajana Ciyate, so Ye Dharma, Ajana Ciyate. Right? Second, this was in Kalimantan. So here is in Limbang, our own Malaysia Limbang. Right? So if you go to Limbang, you take a boat up, you see there's this small jetty, which is the Malay cemetery. You go inside, you can see here, there's another stupa structure. All right? Now it's covered. And then here, you can see here, the Ajana Ciyate Karma verse. All right? Jana Ciyate Karma. All right? No. I mean, if you can learn these scripts in 2 hours, honestly. All right? You have a table, a chart, you can learn it. All right? So you can see it's in Limbang. Now, one thing I want you to notice by now you would have noticed that these inscriptions are inscribed near or on a stupa relief, right? Or on top of a miniature stupa. Remember the Buddha Gupta inscription? There's a stupa relief. You remember the Sungai Mas inscription? There's a stupa. The boulder, the Kalimantan boulder, there's also a stupa here on top of a stupa. And you look at the design of the stupa, not exactly the same, but almost the same. So it gives you some idea. Now in Brunei, in the cemetery, Again, you go inside the cemetery, you can see here another stupa, and then down there, Ajahn Chiyate verses. So you can see here, all of them are in a stupa or stupa relief structure, right? And I said earlier, it is not found, these verses is not found in any Buddhist text. So it is a regional innovation. Okay? Regional innovation means to say that there is a network between Peninsula Malaysia, Borneo, as well as in Java Islands, that communicate with each other, that share this idea of this Ajahn Chiyate karma verse. That is not shared in other parts, like in India or Bangladesh or in Burma or Thailand. Right? So there's this small communication network that exists during that time. And the artwork is the same, stupa, relief or stupa. Right? So this is Ajahn Chiyate curse. The next one is the Bodhi Gaba Lankara Dharani. So you can see here this Perlis Dharani. Now Dharani became very popular, especially towards the end of the first millennium. There is a wave of Dharani culture that swept across the Buddhist world. So from here, you can see here, especially Eastern India, a lot of Dharanis are being found. It is this particular Dharani alone. And then it spreads to down to Perlis and down to Central Java. And then to Central Asia, go to East Asia. Right? Now, one thing I want you to notice is that not only the Dharani is being transmitted, but the ritual of stamping the Dharani onto clay tablets is being transmitted. Right? So you can see here, they all stamp different typography, but it's the same. Okay, and then I just like to share with you that this Dharani go through Central Asia, go to Chang'an, being translated into Chinese, and then go to Korea, and go to China, and then come back to Penang again, right? So when the emperor gave a set of Tipitaka to Galaxy, so it comes all the way back to Old Kedah again. This is how the Buddhist text transmitted. And then the Ye Dhamma inscriptions is the most common epigraph in the Buddhist world, right? So you can find anywhere in different languages. You can see here in the Baishuki scripts that used to write Buddhist texts, especially by the Samatiyas. So in the Siddhamatrika scripts, so you see in Pakistan, in Peshawar Museum, you go to the store, you can see, all these tablets, Ye Dhamma inscription, the stamp there, right? And then they also have the Chinese version. So basically what it says is that, my last slide, it says that you can see here, Kedah is unique by itself through this Sakaramati Pariprecha inscription, not found elsewhere. Right? And it has also a regional network through this Ajahn Chiyate karma verse. Right? And also, it also participated in this broader Pan-Asian Buddhist culture, like Dharani as well as Ye Dhamma inscriptions. All right, that's it. Thank you very much.